Hey there, folks. Want to see some magic? Well, here's Aaron here from the Evacstation channel, here to let you know that if you want to help us keep the magic going around here, the best way you can do that is going to patreon.com/evacstation. For only $1 a month, that's $12 a year, less than the cost of getting that damn Switch game you want to get, or that Xbox game. I don't know what console you play. You play one of them, probably. Even a PC. You're cheaper than all those. Unless it's on a Steam sale. I'm getting off track here. For less than $12 a year, you can support this channel to get all sorts of new shows, new content, exclusive content, which is going to be coming here very soon, guaranteed. And you get more of me. You get more of Ryan. You might get more of other people when you can pay them to come here. It'd be great. That's patreon.com/evacstation. And on to the show. The doors of Why is it when I leave the house, I don't run into strange, handsome men who will help me fly and take me on some magical adventures? Just once, I'd love for someone to whisk me away from the shackles of this podcast, like Risa Fermenters.
Oh my god. Help, I'm on fire.
That boy's on fire. And I am Aaron, the Wizard of Waste Seska, and here is the After Credits cast.
I love it.
I had to really stretch your mind there a bit.
That's all right, though. You pulled it. You pulled it at the end.
I think I do good sometimes. And today's intro song is "It's a Kind of Magic" by Queen. Good song. I like that one.
I love it.
So, before we get started into tonight's film, which is Howl's Moving Castle, let's get into what you've been watching. Ryan, what you watching?
Well, I happened upon a really interesting series on Netflix. It's called 3%. I think it's either Brazilian or Portuguese. But the synopsis is essentially the majority of the world lives in destitute squalor and just fucked up places. But everybody at a certain point of coming of age, they can take this exam along with a bunch of other people to determine the top 3% of the population, and the 3% get to go live in paradise. And it deals with a lot of fucked up dystopian shit, and it's really good.
Sounds like it.
It's really good. I just finished the first season, and I see that the second season's up, so I will definitely be getting on the second season very soon. But god damn, if you're looking for some dystopian, Jesus Christ, why is humanity so horrible, that's some good shit.
Sounds like it. And that's on Netflix, you said?
That is on Netflix. 3%.
Nice. Before I get into mine, I want to point out a news article I saw earlier today, actually. So, it was Disney. They came out saying that they're going to stop putting things on Netflix for their Marvel stuff, starting with Captain Marvel next year.
No.
Well, it's on their bend to make their own digital service, but yeah, no, it sucks. It sucks.
I get it, but damn. No.
I kind of wish they would have at least waited till the end of Phase 3. Just let them finish everything, and then starting with Spider-Man going forward, I could have been like, okay, I'll accept that. Well, at least let me finish the story, damn it.
Damn.
Plus Captain Marvel, really your first female movie, and you're going to throw her under the bus of Netflix? Come on now. Come on. What is this?
Well, I mean, it's a strong play because of the idea that since it is, going to be a huge deal and, ideally will be a fucking phenomenal movie, that the first movie that they pull people away from Netflix with will be Captain Marvel, which I can understand. It's irritating, but it's a good power play for money, so I get it.
So let me ask you this.
Fucking capitalism, I swear to God.
Well, let me ask you this. So, Disney's going to start their own streaming service at some point here in the next year. That's pretty clear. With that, Are you tempted to buy it? And furthermore, have you looked into this DC online streaming service at all? And do you know anything about that?
To answer your second question, absolutely fucking not. I don't care. I don't. Like, the fact that I learned about DC's streaming service by watching the dumpster fire that was the Titans trailer just makes it, like, just makes it a bygone conclusion that I will never get this DC thing. I'll torrent that shit if there are good things. But in terms of whether or not I would get the Disney one, I honestly don't know. It depends on if it comes down between me having to choose one or the other. I'm probably not going to, because Netflix offers a lot of content that's really, really good, and you can pull up anything. Whereas it'll be a little more streamlined, a little less variety with the Disney stuff.
That is kind of true, but consider this though. Disney's got a big Disney's like Nintendo. They have a pretty big back catalog of all their old animated films, all their old TV shows, plus Star Wars and Marvel, and going forward, they're going to have all the Fox stuff. They got a pretty robust catalog going. I'm not sure if it's going to be big enough to compete with Netflix right away, because I don't know if they're going to drip feed it out like Nintendo's been doing with their fucking bullshit, or if they're going to actually just dump a bunch of stuff out at once. Like, not all at once, like maybe like just like, here's 100 things here, here's 100 things here, so on and so forth. It really depends on how they drop it all off first. I probably won't buy the Disney one year one, but I will definitely keep my eye on it to see if it's actually worth it by year two.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely take a look at it. I mean, and hey, who knows? I could land a boss-ass job and actually be able to afford an extra $12 a month for another streaming service. Who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe.
I still question the DC one though. It's like, hey, here's our here's Warner Brothers streaming service called Disney Online. Well, why can't you just put all the Warner stuff on there? It's DC. No, can I get Animaniacs? Fuck no, you get fucking Titans.
Because why do smart things?
I would love an anime. I would get the streaming service that had Animaniacs and Looney Tunes on it. I could go for that.
I mean, I haven't seen it in forever. It would be an amazing trip down memory lane.
It really would.
I don't know if I'd leave Netflix for that, but yeah.
Okay, so on to my watch, and I'll be very quick here. So Amanda's been watching a series called Parenthood, and I've been kind of popping in and out of that one. It's not bad. It's pretty fun. Good characters, good acting. It's a drama from like the late 2000s, early 2010s. It's solid. I'll take it.
Parenthood.
Have you heard that one at all?
I feel like I've heard of it briefly, but it's. I'm not getting any concrete memory of it.
Yeah, I can't remember all the actors at the top of my head. The only one I recognize is the grandfather of the family, who is the voice of Mr. Incredible.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's in there. He's a pretty fun character.
Nelson, alright.
Yeah, but overall, good show. The one woman from Gilmore Girls, the one who plays the mom, she's in it too as another mom, of course. So there's that. But yeah, if anyone's interested in a family, comedy, drama kind of thing, this is kind of it. It's not full comedy like Modern Family. It definitely leans more towards the drama side, but there are some comical moments worth checking out, so it's fine. And on a slightly different note, I also restarted our weekly game night over here. Every Sunday we do board games and shit. Well, video games and board games. We're probably doing more board games for reasons, long story, but no, it's cool. We did a few board games this last week. We played Lords of Waterdeep, pretty fun.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's a good one. And then we also did Smash Up last week, so...
Smash Up is the best! I haven't played that in years.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the next session when we do Cosmic Encounters or Aeon's End. Those are both pretty fun, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll keep you all updated on that if you want to know more about board games, because I like board games. They're fun. Not as good as video games in some cases, but pretty close in some cases. It's a tough one. Anyway, with that in mind, Ryan, are you ready to start this movie?
Yes, let's talk about this.
All right, let me see what this is coming out here real quick. Okay, this is October when this comes out. Sweet. So, back onto our today's inappropriately named SummerSlam, we'll be talking about the 2004 Ghibli classic, Howl's Moving Castle. This adaptation of the 1986 book of the same name was directed by Hayao Miyazaki himself, and it would go on to gross $235,184,000 worldwide. The English dub features voices voice work from the likes of Christian Bale, Billy Crystal, Lauren Bacall, and Blythe Danner. While this film lost to Wallace and Gromit at the Oscars, it did go on to win many prestigious awards, such as Animation of the Year from the Hollywood Film Awards, Best Music from the Los Angeles Film Critics Association, Reader's Choice Best Film from the Mainichi Film Concours, Best Script from the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America, Best Animation, Director, and Music, and Voice Acting at the Tokyo Anime Awards. And I got 2 quick bonus facts here for you, Ryan. Upon seeing Spirited Away, Christian Bale immediately agreed to play any role in this film. He did not expect to get the titular role for it though.
God damn! I really want to watch the English dub and hear Batman fucking be the Wizard Howl.
He actually does a surprisingly good, competent job. I'll give him that. He does a good job. And although the film was not released in the United Kingdom until the 23rd of September in 2005, Hayao Miyazaki personally traveled to England in the summer of 2004 to give a private showing of the film to Diana Wynne Jones, the author of the original piece.
Oh wow! Mm-hmm. Oh, that's really cool. Oh, that's really nice.
So yeah, lots of good background stuff here. This is definitely one of those feel good stories from behind the scenes. It's good stuff. So Ryan, what are your initial thoughts before we jump into the synopsis here?
Initial thoughts, I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. It definitely has a more classical Miyazaki feel to me. So when you said that it was actually directed by him, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, I have a reason. I have a reason for specifically naming that, but I'll get to that here in the next episode.
Yeah. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was only a little confused by the lack of specificity in regards to certain curses, but I think it still worked really, really well, and we'll talk about that a little later.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. As for me, this is some of the most visually amazing stuff I think we've seen thus far. It popped everywhere. It really shows how far they've come with the fusion of the classic cell drawing with the computer animation. Perfect, beautiful, love it. The story is a bit strange to follow at times. It gets a little twisted here and there, but there's some depth to it, and I really like the general world setup. I'm looking forward to getting more into that here in a moment. But before we do that, I've got a very topical synopsis for you, Ryan.
Oh boy!
Alright, here we go. Out on business, Sophie runs into suspected pedophile in the streets, who is on the run from the Pooh Man group. Sophie gets dragged into this bullshit and escapes via magic. She returns to her normal life until a horrible monster known as the Witch of the Waste, no, not the West, comes in and curses her, and then pieces the fuck out. Sophie is now a reverse Benjamin Button and has aged many years. Furthermore, she is unable to speak about the curse because the witch forced an NDA on her. Sophie decides her only hope is to see the titular wizard, Howl, who the witch had mentioned during her little visit. Old Sophie leaves town and, with the help of a scarecrow, finds the titular castle. No, I swear, this is not Wizard of Oz. Stop asking. Inside, she meets Billy Calcifer, a fire demon who makes children laugh and keeps the house moving among many other very important tasks. Wink! As they talk, she falls asleep in a stranger's house. When she awakens, she meets the other residents of the house, Markle and Howl himself, who was that same pedophile we met in the alleyway just a little bit ago. When cooking breakfast, they ask her what she's doing there, and she lies, stating Calcifer hired her as their new cleaning lady. Again, she's cursed to silence, much like a notable director working under Disney. Makes this one a little tough to tackle. Soph isn't the only one who's lying about who she is, as Howl is called by the king under various names that he has used to dodge the draft. There's a war going on we're not really told much about, other than there are other wizards involved from all around the country, and they're getting called in. But who cares? Cleaning montage! When Howl returns from a day of fighting as Michael Keaton's Birdman, he goes up and cleans the newly cleaned bathroom, only to find old Sophus rearrange all his potions. Wacky shenanigans. As a result, he now looks slightly less pretty than before, making it so he now matches his profile on the sex offender registry. This pushes Howl into a deep depression that nearly destroys the house, but Sophie and Markle get him back on his feet. In no condition, or desire, to fight any nonsense wars for oil or destabilizing nations, Howl asks Sophie to go to the king on his behalf, and say that he can't do it. She accepts, like she has a choice. In doing so, she runs into the Witch of the Waste, as she marches unknowingly towards her possible death. The queen has assumed control, while the king is busy doing king things, I guess. Probably playing children's card games. She has the Witch of the Waste drained of all her magic, and intends to do the same to Howl. Howl surprisingly comes in to save Sophie and a couple tag-alongs, a puppet dog and the Witch of the Waste herself. We learn that the witch has an obsession with Howl as a former lover and was working for the queen until this recent betrayal. We learn that Howl rejected her over her looks, much like he obsesses over his own looks. During this time, we also see the curse on Sophie's kind of wearing off, but it doesn't fully go away, even coming back in full force at times. We'll fast forward a bit because things get a little screwy here, but those are the key details to take away from that. Howl gets dragged into a bigger conflict to protect the castle and Sophie's former hat shop. I honestly lost track of why for a moment there. Meanwhile, the Witch of the Waste, who has kind of been losing her mind like she was in the Notebook, regains her cognition and sabotages the castle, the moving castle, for her own selfish reasons. When Calcifer is able to get things moving again, he goes full force, but the witch realizes Calcifer is Howl's literal heart and removes him from the furnace. Which breaks the castle down even more, throwing Sophie down a cliff to return later in Captain Howl, Winter Sophie. I was going to pause there for that one. That's good. Here we go. She walks it off and then goes through some time door flashback sequence where she learns that Howl and Calcifer's origins. She returns to the present day to shove Calcifer into Howl to return his heart. He springs back to life. The power of love has removed the curse, all along with the curse on the Scarecrow that has been kind of following them through the whole movie. This is a long synopsis, so I don't know if I mentioned him too much. The Queen, who has been watching this whole time through her cheaty crystal ball magic, decides to call up the war and let Howl be a free man, because reasons. Instead of returning to her family, Sophie stays with Howl, a changed man who no longer makes gross pedophilia jokes online. Judge him not by his idiocy from years ago, but by his actions he takes now. They fly off into the sunset, onto their castle in the sky. Wink! So, Ryan, what did you think of this movie?
You know, I didn't know James Gunn was in this movie. I mean, you know what? I agree with your synopsis. They're pretty accurate.
I got more topical than I planned to, but I had fun with it.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. But you know what? No, honestly, I really like it. Like I said, it was classic Miyazaki. I'm a sucker for huge fantasy stories, like in any format. So this was me all over. What? Oh, you mean they're actual like spooky ass wizards, and they have like interdimensional fucking doors that go to their moving castle that's powered by a demon? Sign me the fuck up. So,
the fantasy aspects in here were fucking off the wall. They were great.
It was so good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And just to point about the synopsis, about the war ending, it was actually revealed, and you may have missed it, that the Scarecrow was actually a prince, the prince of the neighboring country.
Right. I remember now.
So now that he was able to leave and his curse was removed, the queen mage, an aide to the king, was like, all right, well, I guess we can call the war off now. That's good.
Not gonna lie, that felt like so tacked on at the end. Like, I wish
it
they
really
built that up
was.
a bit more. Just a bit more.
It was, but you know what? I love the fucking Scarecrow, so I'm just not going to be mad at it. I'm just going to be like, oh, hey, he was actually a part of the story, too. That's fine.
Oh, no, so Scarecrow was baller. I loved him. He was great.
Yeah, just like that little ending to actually tack him on and give him some importance to the overall story. I'm like, that's fine. And what I loved was that even after he was completely human, he bounced away on the fucking Scarecrow stick at the end.
Oh, yeah, that was great, too. I was like,
where are you going?
She's like, Pogo Man, away.
Oh, my God. But yeah, no, I really like this movie. It was
Oh yeah.
pretty straightforward, except for the curse, and I like, and at the same time I don't like that it wasn't explained. I feel like if it was explained, then it would almost become like a quest marker that Sophie had to work out how to break, and then like when she did a certain thing, then the curse would break forever, and it would be really kind of in your face. And I appreciate that they did it subtly, but at the same time, I would have liked a little more clarity on it.
So funny thing. So like I said, this is based on a book, and there are some things the book does go into that the movie doesn't, and I'll get into that here in a bit, because I have that as my last question here. I don't want to get into it too much because it's a lot of talking, but needless to say, a lot of your concerns, I think, do get addressed in the book.
All right. Well, I'll put my hypothesis here, and then when we talk about the book stuff that you have later on, we can figure out if I'm right or not.
Yep.
But my hypothesis on the curse was that because she acted so serious and didn't really act like her age and like go after anything she wanted, or was a young person, she was cursed to essentially look how she acted. And as she let herself go a little more and experience life and let herself actually fall in love with Howl, she started to revert closer to the actual age she was.
Indeed.
That's my guess.
Yeah, I would say there's a good bunch of stuff that can be said about the curse itself, including its discussions on on age and stuff like that. Which I guess brings me to my first question, Ryan, which is, what do you think this film has to say about age? When you have all these characters who are older than they appear, some of them are even younger than they appear. It's weird shit.
I think generally speaking, it says that age is more of a mentality than it has to do with actual physical age, because you have the Witch of the Waste, who uses all of this magic when actually she's kind of old and decrepit. But she does kind of, but she has like the selfish tendencies of a child. Similar things could be said about Howl, who looks really young, but I'm pretty sure is much older than he appears. Yet again, that same kind of childish fancy and a bit of selfishness on his own. Although he's definitely more selfless than selfish, I would think. Because of his aversion to fighting this war that nobody really needs to happen. And on the opposite end of that spectrum, you have Sophie, who's a very young girl, but she's taken on such responsibility and such seriousness that she doesn't really allow herself to have fun. So it's almost like she cheats herself out of her youth, and the curse kind of makes her revisit that decision.
And I kind of like that aspect a bit, too, because it kind of just is one of those... It's a subtle lesson in this film, which is don't grow up too fast and try to have fun with life. A little bit. It's not directly, thrown out there, but with what you're saying there, you can kind of pull that a little bit from the reading a bit. And I like that. It's good. And there's also the other character we aren't really going to talk about too much, probably, Markle, the little boy, who goes on to pretend he's an old man some of the times. But I feel like that's more of just him putting on a guise and doing it just for the sake of, getting stuff done. I don't think there's any deeper meaning behind it necessarily.
Yeah, I think so too. Especially because he does that because he's essentially the public face of Howl when people need to get spells and whatnot.
And we'll get to him in a little bit. I actually have one little bit I want to bring up for him later. But before I get to that, speaking of the transformation characters we just discussed here, which character's metamorphosis did you find the most compelling, and what did you think about it said about the character as they changed throughout the film? We sort of addressed what's her name?
Sophie.
Sophie. We addressed Sophie a little bit with her transformation, but what about the other two? And did you find either of them more compelling than Sophie's transformations?
Well, Sophie's transformation was definitely the most prominent, and definitely, you could literally see her aging as like her priorities shifted throughout the movie. So that was definitely the most in your face one.
And I liked how subtle they were in the second and third acts, where she starts going back and forth on the age, and it's like you don't know when she's changing, but it's just like a gradual thing. It's like, oh, okay, I'm following along. This is weird.
Yeah, no, I really love that. Like, like despite me describing it as like in your face, it's done so subtly. I just mentioned that it's in your face because it's just like you can literally see her age changing like throughout the movie.
Oh, yeah.
And then you can track it based on like what she's doing and what she's deeming to be important. But it was definitely very subtly done for as out there as it was. I really loved it. In terms of the other two, I had a bit of difficulty tracking Howl's change.
So, from what I gather, he's got 3 central forms we know about. 2 of which are very similar. You have the sexy blonde Howl, and you have the horrible dark-haired Howl, who looks atrocious. My God. And then you have the third version, which is just Birdman Howl. And I found that very interesting, honestly. And I think it does speak a little bit to the character in that he's this vain dude who, with just the slightest change of his hair color, starts freaking out over shit. But he turns into this bird monster, and it kind of plays into the character dynamics between him and Sophie. I'm going to forget her name every now and then. But it plays in that because he's a guy who only wants to see people, who only wants beauty and only wants to see people for their beautiful stuff. And here he is being this arguably ugly bird monster. Whereas Sophie sees the beauty in this bird monster and accepts him as he is in that form, no matter what. And it's sort of interesting because he sort of does the same for her. She's this old woman who, conventionally speaking, is not attractive, but he looks past that and sees, the real Sophie behind it. And whether or not he actually does see the real Sophie, or if he's just accepting her for what she is a little tough to say. I would like to assume the latter, but I imagine with all of his magic bullshit, it's probably also a bit of the former.
You bring up a very good point, and I really do like the juxtaposition of those two things. I also want to add to that it seems that Howl is more comfortable not only existing in the bird form, but being seen in the bird form towards the end, because at the end, he has something more valuable to protect than just his vanity, or the fact that he doesn't want people to see him like the monster he thinks he is, and that's protecting Sophie. So I like seeing that growth as well.
The lesson here, kids, is it doesn't matter how ugly you are, if you're protecting other people, you're a beautiful person.
That's actually a really good lesson, Aaron. Good job. Damn it! I wanted to smack it down, but it's just like, no, it's pretty good, actually.
It's straight and to the point. I like it.
It's pretty damn good. Well done. A+.
I try sometimes. Sometimes I burn my A game. Sometimes I don't. This is one of those times.
Which
Okay.
one?
Okay. So, moving on to Hal specifically, then, because I actually do find his character to be very fascinating. So, looking at the castle that Howl owns, if you look at the castle outside and inside the whole thing, how does the castle represent Hal as a character? Now I'll throw a couple things out here, and I want to see if you can pick up on anything extra. So obviously we have Calcifer himself, who represents Hal by being the heart of the castle and also the heart of Hal himself.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And I did read a little bit into this a bit, and Markle, the little boy, it said that he kind of represents Howl's inner child a bit. Whereas Howl has got to be kind of the adult running the show, but Markle kind of represents this, more creative, outgoing child side of him that is still inside and just kind of wanting to get out and do things, so to speak.
Okay.
But there's more to it. I'm kind of wondering if you caught anything else in there.
Well, if anything, I want to point out the stark difference between the exterior and the interior of the castle, because the exterior of it is ugly as sin. Honestly, it's just a big mechanical contraption that looks like it's on top of a fucking robot frog that's just wandering around and creaking so that it looks like it's about to fall over every which way before it rights itself with the next step. However, the interior of it is a really nicely set home, and it has a lot. So it's the juxtaposition there is really interesting. It could also be tied to how monstrous Howl thinks he is on the outside in his bird form, but inside he's taking that form because he wants to protect those he loves, or he wants to stop suffering. So it could be a kind of mirroring of that concept as well. Although I will point out that the interior of the castle doesn't really become as beautiful as it can be until Sophie shows up, which could also be said for Howl. Ding!
Aww. I like that. I'm going to put a ding sound effect. I actually used that in one of the most recent edits I did. I'm going to keep using it now. Oh no, I'll actually go into that a little bit too. The disorganization and the mess in the castle before Sophie shows up. I feel like it also represents just how disorganized and chaotic Howl is as a person. He's kind of all over the place. He kind of doesn't really have a plan for anything, and just fucking. Well, you see him fight too. He's just all over. He just got all this magic everywhere. I don't know. It kind of tells the chaotic nature of Howl and his life in general, with just how much of a mess the whole place is.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. I mean, there are any number of adages that say, a person's dwelling reflects a person's inner mind or what have you. And
Absolutely.
I think the same could definitely be said of Howl, which again mirrors before Sophie and after Sophie.
Yep. I would just want to say, great use of the storytelling with the environment. Great stuff there.
Yes.
Okay.
And I love that they managed to slide in an anti-war message in there. War is bad. Stop doing it.
Yep. I kind of wish I knew what the war was about, so that way I can kind of at least see some reason for the war. But they don't really dive into it too much, and it's like, okay, well, I mean, it's not important, obviously, but yeah, for me, I'm the person who likes to hear both sides of the story before I make a decision on something. And I would love to have at least known, hey, why is Howl not for this war anyway? I get war's bad. What's this war about? What's he not in this for?
I feel like the other side of the war didn't really need to be explained because, at the end of the day, war itself was what Howl was going up against. I mean, when they kept asking him, to join the war, he's like, well, which side are you fighting for? And he says, does it matter? And it really doesn't, because he is anti-war, period. So I didn't really need the other side of that conflict to try and to appreciate that Howl was fighting war in general.
Oh, that's absolutely fair. That's absolutely fair. And actually answers one of my questions I haven't even gotten to yet, so I'm going to just pass that one for now. Yeah, you're ahead of the game. I like that. Okay, this is kind of just a weird, goofy one I threw in there. So be honest with me here. With an evil witch and a scarecrow, did you at first expect there to be some Wizard of Oz references going past that?
You know what? I was so caught up in it that I completely didn't even think about the Wizard of Oz reference. I will admit, I had my blinders on. I completely missed that. But yeah.
Well, so I used to live with my mom, and she is a big Wizard of Oz fan. So as soon as I saw the Scarecrow as our first traveling companion, I'm like, okay, how long till we get a Tin Man? How long till we get a lion? I want to see a lion. I was a little disappointed that we didn't get to see that, but at the same time, I really liked the movie, so it didn't detract it. But I'm like, oh, that would have been kind of cool to see a subtle reference. Even just a little plushy, a lion in the house somewhere. I'd been okay with that.
I feel like Miyazaki really didn't want to crib off of the Wizard of Oz, which I can respect him for.
Considering this is based on a different book entirely, I totally get it now. But at first, I didn't know that, so Okay. Next question. Why do you think the characters are dishonest about who they are throughout the film, and what do you think the author and or filmmaker are trying to say about this?
That's a damn good question, and I love these discussion questions because it makes me think deeper about the movie. But
I will be honest. Some of these I do pull from discussion-based websites, but for the most part, I try to make up myself.
No, I like it. It's really good. Definitely brings it along. When you come to the idea of a lot of people hiding their identities, I think it could definitely speak to the concept of self-awareness, because you have a lot of people lying about who they are, but you also have a lot of people like almost willfully ignoring or not seeing certain aspects of their own psyche. And that's definitely true of a lot of humans. Self-awareness is not a widely practiced concept, but it definitely, I think, is crucial to living the best life that you can. And I feel that a lot of the things in the movie that occur throughout the story kind of makes every character look in the mirror. So Sophie getting hit with the spell and having her look the way she acts, and her being able to notice those changes as she notices changes in herself, definitely forces her to look in the mirror in a figurative way. And I think that happens for a lot of other characters as well.
It also happens quite literally for her too at the beginning, but that's beside the point. But no, I see what you mean. So it makes her self-aware in what we said earlier about her kind of enjoying life and not, being too old too quick, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And with Howl, it's about, vanity. I think that's kind of the core of his character for the most part. And then the Witch of the Waste is kind of a strange one. I would say maybe that's more about, being more aware of your own selfishness, because she kind of comes off as that ex-girlfriend who is still trying to make things work at the detriment of the relationship you're trying to make work.
You know what I read from the Witch of the Waste story is a person who was desperately trying to feel young again. Like, they used magic to keep themselves looking like as young as they possibly could, because there was a lot of shit to combat in the witch's case. But that's neither here nor there. But
she's an old bitch.
She's quite old. But I think her fixation on Howl's heart was truly because, not only was it just because Howl was a fucking sexy dude, because he is, but it, his heart in and of itself was kept pure as a child because he gave it up. And he had that kind of Peter Pan-esque quality to him that, he's never going to grow up. And I think that's what she was chasing. So by the high mage, the high witch, taking all of her magic, it really forced her to just be old and to just live in that reality and accept it. And to the point where at the very end of it, she could give Howl's heart back because she knew it didn't belong to her, because that time had passed. And I think that's it.
I would say she didn't even give it back. She gave it to the person who could make the most use of it, which was Sophie.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. I like your answers, though. That was really solid. I like that.
Yeah, okay. I try sometimes. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
Now, I got one abstract one before we get to the book stuff. Here we go.
All right.
If you had a magical door, Ryan, that could take you to 4 specific places, one of which, of course, being the physical world outside your home, so let's say you have 3 more places left, what would those 3 places be and why?
Oh, man. Ooh.
I thought the door mechanic was really cool, so I thought this was a good question to bring up.
The door mechanic was definitely awesome. It was definitely amazing. And this is a concept that you definitely see in a lot of other movies, in a lot of other stories.
Doctor Strange has something
Doctor Strange has something very similar. Yes, that's exactly what I was going to bring up. So I would definitely have one tied to I don't know if it would be a beach or a forest. Maybe one of each. But just somewhere, places that I can, step and just get away from stuff for a while and just have an amazing bit of solitude to myself. Actually, all 3 of them. I would probably just have different getaway spots. I'll keep one tied to actual Chicago so I can go about and do stuff. But to be able to go home, change into a swimsuit, and walk out the door onto a beach, yeah, it's pretty sick.
Oh, I like that. I think I would definitely have one be Japan. I just fucking love Japan. I'd love to be like a door that's like, oh, yep, I can go here and buy some fucking amiibos and come back for cheap. That's not the only reason, of course, but I mean, just Japan in general would be a cool place to be able to visit on a whim instead of taking a 15-hour flight to get there.
Yeah, no, that's real. That's real.
If not that one, Australia would be another good one because, again, it's a long-ass flight, and Australia's got some damn nice beaches.
Okay.
And then for the third door, I would... So I don't know what the limits of these doors are. Do they have to be in the current physical, like, time and space, or can they go across realities and time? Because if that's the case, I have so many ideas for that third one. Like, fucking prehistoric times, the far future, fucking fictional worlds like the Pokemon world. I could think of so many places.
I'm pretty sure the door allows travel through space, but not time.
Okay. In that case, I'll probably pick, shit. If there's another planet out there that actually has life, I might pick that, because that'd be kind of sick to be like, okay, guys, well, I'm going to, fucking Rigel 7. See you later. No, Omicron Persei 8. That's it. That's the one I'll go to.
Nice.
Gotta go help Lur and help him invade humans. Or Earth, or whatever. Alright, moving on to the next question. We got book questions now, Ryan. I have 3 of them. I'm going to try to keep them quick for you. Well, 2 of them at least. Number 1. Knowing this is based on a book, are you inclined to check out the original work? And do you wish this had been more of an original piece, allowing Miyazaki to have more of his own voice versus trying to compromise with the author's original voice?
Well, okay, so I also was unaware that it was based off of an actual book. That being said, I know Howl's Moving Castle as Miyazaki, as Studio Ghibli. Depending on the author and the writing style, I might be inclined to check it out. I'm one of those people who I can't really sit down and read something unless I really, really get into it.
Have you tried audiobooks by chance?
I have. I can only do self-help / self-improvement books on audiobook because I feel like it's a conversation where somebody's like trying to help me through some stuff, and that's really good. But if it's an actual like immersive world, I need to have that in front of me because I like to stop and like go nuts about it or turn back a couple of pages and reread something. I like to have that physically in my hand, and then I can control the pacing as opposed to waiting for somebody to get to a certain part.
That's fair. I've only done one audiobook prior to this, ever. It's for Mog World, which is a book by Benjamin Yahtzee Croshaw, the guy who does Zero Punctuation on The Escapist.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And he actually does the audiobook for his own book, and if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't have bought it, but his voice is perfect for it. He's got a good delivery, so yeah, I would say I can definitely do certain fantasy books because certain voice actors can really bring about that kind of world with their voice alone.
Yeah.
I don't think everyone's capable, and I don't think it's something that every book's going to be able to do easily. But I definitely wouldn't mind checking this one out if the voice actor out there is good for it. I'm going to look into that a bit, because I wouldn't mind seeing where this came from. I'm very curious.
Yeah, that's also another thing that kind of throws me for a loop in regards to audiobooks for like fantasy or like other book settings. Is that as I'm reading, like the characters take on their own voice in my head and their own personalities, and I like that. I really enjoy it. It's how I kind of latch onto the characters the best. So hearing it read to me by somebody else would throw a different spin on it. So I wouldn't be as invested because I'm just listening to somebody read me a story as opposed to listening to myself read a story in my head. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's fair. Next one here. So in the book, there's some vagueness to whether Calcifer is an evil demon or a good demon. Do you think there's any ambiguity of the character in the film, and then why or why not?
I don't think there is much ambiguity in it because, I mean, all you really get is the I'm a demon, like, title. And then, but you're like, "Rawr, I'm a fierce demon. You should be afraid of me. Or make a deal with me, and then you'll lose your soul."
Get these eggs off me.
Yeah, and Sophie just sees right through that. Like, nah, come on. You're fine. You're a good demon. Don't worry about it. And then he's like, "Oh, do you think so?" It's just like, "Yes, you're really cool." I've never seen fire blush, but I did. I just saw it in this movie, so no, there was no ambiguity. There was no ambiguity. He was automatically kind of casted as the cute portion of this family that is also the magical heart of this moving castle.
Indeed. Okay. Last question. There's a little extra context, so if you want me to explain after I ask the question, flag me down. I'll totally do it.
All right.
All right. Is it clear in the movie that Sophie has magical powers? And can you tell what they are?
Wait, what?
Okay, so I will read the notes I have here, which I copy-pasted because
Wait, in the book, is Sophie actually a witch?
Let me read.
Oh my god.
In the book, Sophie's established as a witch who can talk life into things in the book. While in the movie, it is left up to the viewer to realize this themselves. Some moments that make her powers obvious are when Sophie reaches for the Scarecrow, and he gets deeply attached to her, as well as when her hair gives Calcifer extraordinary strength, even while Howl is absent. Calcifer repeatedly singles her out, confirming that only if it is her performing the action will he be able to live on, and Howl be able to accept his heart back. Sophie is able to keep Howl's heart and Calcifer alive through her inherent powers. Sophie, being a witch, also has significant power over the witch's curse, only she doesn't know about it. In her sleep while she's dreaming, and during deeply emotional moments, when she is happy or upset and completely in love with Howl, she turns back into her younger self, being able to undo the curse by accepting and embracing herself, giving into her own powers. Furthermore, I didn't write this down, but it is established in the book that as she, in her hat shop, when she speaks to her hats, she apparently talks life into them, in that when people buy the hats and wear them, they tend to have really good luck afterward. But she is not aware of this.
I don't like that.
I think if they're going to do it in the movie, they need to make it a little clearer. Just a little bit.
No. I don't like that, period, honestly. I like...
Well,
the idea that the good things that Sophie, and like the amazing things that Sophie ends up being able to do are because of latent magical powers, I feel like it takes away from her effect in the movie. I would rather it just be that the curse in and of itself was that she looks the way she acts, and that as she starts to really let herself be young again, like, the curse starts to fluctuate. I like that. Or I like the idea that just her personality and her caring and her thoughtfulness is what draws Calcifer to her side, or what draws the Scarecrow to her side. I don't like if you just write in magic as doing it. I feel like it takes away from it.
Maybe. I'd have to read the book to verify, because I want to see exactly how that plays into things, but I am interested in the idea. Not necessarily wanting the idea to be the main thing, but I'm interested. I'll say that much.
Honestly, if that's in the book, it makes me a little less likely to read it. I gotta be honest. I feel like it underwrites a lot of the really strong things about her story.
Absolutely no judgment. I think... So when it comes to adaptations, I think it's very interesting the divide people will have. There are people who say the book's better, then there are some kids who say the movie's better. And here I don't know if there's a clear-cut case for it. I mean, we haven't read the books, so we obviously can't say for sure. But I feel like this might be one of those cases where the book and movie tell two different stories, both of which are very valid. Kind of like Jurassic Park almost. They tell similar but different stories, and they're both equally valid, because they're both aiming for different kinds of audiences, so to speak.
Yeah, I could see that. Which actually, it actually goes back to your previous question about whether or not I wish Miyazaki had done like an original story as opposed to borrowing from it. Especially hearing you talk about it now, it honestly feels like like Miyazaki took the bare bones of the story and said, all right, we're going to tell it this way, and then put his own spin on it. So I think it's separate enough for it.
Oh, if you think this is bare bones, just wait till the next one. All right, before we get into the next episode, though, we have a few more things to tie up here. Mailbag, if you want to contact us via email, Twitter, Facebook, or Tumblr, reach out to us. Ask us questions, answer some of the questions we ask with your own opinions. Tell us what you think of these movies and more. We'd love to hear from you guys. And Ryan, what is the email that can best reach us at?
That is evacstation@gmail.com.
You heard it there, folks. evacstation@gmail.com. I have nothing in the mailbag this week, but we keep it open. So if you guys have anything you want to say, feel free to let us know. Ryan, I've got a conspiracy corner for you. Roll that music. Okay. So I've got two things here for you.
Okay.
And they're both Castle in the Sky references, no less.
Ooh, Lapita.
Okay. Haven't heard from that one in a while. So there's a character in during one of the scenes where Sophie's running through the streets that resembles a younger Pazu running through the streets.
Huh? Really?
Yep. If you pause it, you can see him running around. And then, of course, the machines in the film do bear a resemblance to the machines you see in Castle in the Sky. When you see Howl flying around fighting those machines in the air.
You know what? That makes a lot of sense. It's been a while since I've seen it, but yeah, no, I can definitely see the resemblance there.
Yep. And then I guess this isn't really a direct reference, but I mean, Howl's castle does fly in the sky at the end of the film. It's not the same castle, but, I mean, come on. Come on, it's a castle in the sky. Come on.
And then Howl and Sophie have many, many children and give birth to the kingdom known as Lapita. Duh!
Oh, man. We're seeing the connections. It's all happening. The conspiracy. It's happening. But yeah, that's our conspiracy corner this week. Ryan, it's 52 minutes. I have time for trivia. What do you think? Trivia?
Oh boy, I'm always down to get embarrassed!
Alright, I got 3 trivia questions for you. Roll that music. Alright, so, anime trope time, once again. I have three tropes here for you, Ryan. Let's see what you got with my first one, which, let me open up here the page. The name of this trope is Beam of Enlightenment. What is a Beam of Enlightenment, Ryan, in anime? What is this thing?
Beam of Enlightenment?
It sounds like a fucking, like, a Buddhist monk move.
Beam of Enlightenment.
I will give you a hint. It's a visual thing.
Alright, I'm going to point out the idea that, oh shit, hold on.
He's trying to get the words. Everyone give him a minute here. Words are hard sometimes, guys. I'm a writer. I know this.
No, because I have an idea of what it could be, but the only active example that comes to mind is an American anime.
Yeah, go ahead and use it. I'm fine with that. I mean, if it was an American anime, I've probably heard it because there's only like a handful of those.
All right. Well, I'm thinking it's the idea that in a lot of anime, there's usually when a being gets into contact with a higher power, it's done through meditation, and they generally show that character in like a light beam as they're like in communication with said extraplanar thing. Like, say for instance, Avatar. Hey!
I like where you're going with that. I actually really do.
It's entirely wrong.
It's not. It's got some similarities, but it's not quite there.
Entirely wrong.
Beam of Enlightenment, a commonly used device when a character gets a moment of clarity, shock, or insight. What looks like a laser or lightning bolt on a black background will shoot behind their heads, used to emphasize the sense of urgency or impact of what the character has just realized.
Ah, okay. So it's almost like a light bulb clicks, but it's more dramatic. It's just like a flash of lightning.
Like a light bulb click. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, alright, I get that.
Okay. Next one. This one might be a little more abstract. I'm looking forward to seeing your
more abstract. Lord have mercy.
Okay, Ryan. What is an airplane of love?
What?
That's exactly what it says. An airplane of love.
Fucking the love boat on the skies? I don't fucking... Okay, let me think. Jesus Christ. Said airplane of love.
Indeed.
Airplane of love. What?
I'm trying to think if I should give you a hint. You want a hint?
I need something. I feel like a lot of these tropes end up coming out of like slice of life anime and manga, and I don't watch a lot of it.
So this one's used in shoujo series very frequently.
Yeah.
And it's let's just say it's very metaphorical, I should say. Is it metaphorical? An allusion? It's one of those. It's a visual metaphor for something.
Drew, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea.
All right, well, I'll break this down for you then. It is when a character encounters a certain special someone who is totally out of their reach.
Oh my god.
And sometimes it is visually represented by a conveniently timed airplane flying by, and the unrequited lovers spend several seconds staring at the airplane as it flies off in the distance. Sometimes birds are used instead.
Okay, that's that's a very interesting cultural metaphor, because you would hear someone say she's out of your league in America, but the visual metaphor, I like that. I get it now that it's been explained, and it's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
I'm gonna drop airplane of love whenever someone's like going after a girl or a girl or a guy they're like really into, but they're way out of their league. It's like, girl, that guy is such an airplane of love. You better back away. You better land that plane right now. All right, last one here. Okay, you've seen anime where this has probably come up. I just don't know if you're gonna actually know what it is. We'll see how it goes. The trope is instant seiza.
What?
Instant seiza. If I give you a hint, it would give it away. So I'm gonna have to let you fly blind here.
That's all right. Okay, and you said it's in stuff that I've probably seen before, or types of anime that I've probably seen before?
It is in a lot of anime. If you have not seen it, I would be very surprised. I think it's even been in Avatar, so...
Instant seiza.
I know for sure it's been in Pokemon.
Oh, fuck. Well, that throws my idea out of the goddamn window. Well, maybe not. Okay, the only thing I can think of in terms of instantaneous whatever would be the idea of there's always some type of maneuver or technique that allows the user to goddamn near teleport or to move faster than the eye can see. So I'm going to call it that.
I'm not going to lie, you are fairly close, but there's a specific context you're missing, so I'll bring it here for you.
Alright, what's up?
Alright, so instant seiza is a common outcome of what the site calls crash into hello, which involves both parties lying on the floor stacked on top of one another in a same position that looks like they're extremely passionate about one another, which leads them into instantly teleporting into this seiza position, facing away from one another, blushing furiously as if they have nothing to do with one another.
Jesus Christ. So, I was completely not correct, but alright.
Well, it does involve teleportation of some sort, so you aren't incorrect.
Okay, so it's a reaction after the meet cute. Okay, I gotcha.
Yep. Yeah, so that wasn't their best running, but the last one I think you were pretty close.
We need to go back to the random fucking animal facts. I was okay at that.
Yep, let's get some animal dicks in here. Let's do it. Okay, with that in mind, we can wrap this up with our final segment where we close out ranking the movie, giving it a score of platinum to shit, and all the colors and ranks in between. If you want to know all the details, there's a link down in the description. If you ever get a guest on here, I'll probably have to explain it to them, unless they've actually been keeping up on the show. Robbie, shout out to you. I'm pretty sure you're keeping him on the show.
Hey, we have a viewer!
We have one that we know of, probably. With that in mind, Ryan, what do you put this movie at in the rankings?
All right. Well, in terms of the quality of the animation, like you said, Studio Ghibli is definitely showing a lot of advancement in terms of their animation quality and the combination between the hand drawn stuff and the computer generated, and all of the subtle, complex metaphors about life and about growing up and about age in the movie. I'm gonna give this a gold. Honestly, it was it was a sight to behold. It was a fun thing to watch, and if you sit down and think about it for more than 10 seconds, it actually has a lot of really deep things to say. So yeah, I'll give it a gold.
Man, I've been debating this one for a while, because it's either a really high silver or a really low gold. I'm not really sure where. And it's not that I don't like it up to the other ones. I'm just looking at, so I'm looking at the other golds movies. Spirited Away, Nausicaa, and Whisper of the Heart. Those are our three that we're looking at for sure. And I think Spirited Away's story is really good about the whole importance and self-confidence in facing the unknown. I think Whisper of the Heart tells a very cute, very good love story that's all about creativeness and ambitions. I think Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind is fucking phenomenal, with just its environmental retro 80s charm. It's so good. Howl's Moving Castle definitely fits in the gold level in terms of animation. I think its story holds it back a bit. Not in a sense that it's bad, but just that I know within at least the third act things get a little wonky and a little tough to follow. Not quite bad, but just you can see that there's a few different plot threads going on that makes it really tough to be okay, that's happening, this is happening, and just things unravel really quickly. Definitely been helped slowing it down a bit. Unfortunately. I'm definitely going to stick to the high silver, maybe low gold, but it's on that border. It's really close. Really close for me.
I can understand that. I can definitely understand that. I think the storytelling behind Howl's Moving Castle, it's really, really subtle in some parts, and it's lacking in other parts. And I feel like there's a bit of a balance where things are really good and things that are just It's just this whole age metaphor with Sophie and dealing with it and realizing a bunch of truths about herself, A+, tacking on the ending about, oh, hey, the Scarecrow was actually a prince and now we can end the war. That's a little below
left
A+.
field right there, yeah.
So I can understand where you're coming from. I can understand where you're coming from.
We're going to be watching, not next week for our so we're recording another movie here in 5 minutes, but the movie after that, that one is a contender for gold, I think, over this one. And I have my reasons for that, but we'll get it later. But I definitely, Howl's on that border. It's just I feel like there's just a little push it needs to get up there. It's so damn close for me.
All right.
With that, we'll go ahead and cut out here. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you like, share, subscribe. If you rate us on iTunes or any of your other platforms of choice for podcasts, that goes a long way into getting us noticed by other people who also listen to podcasts and want to see movie podcasts that are great. If you also want to comment on our show via YouTube, Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, and that email, evacstation@gmail.com. We would love to hear back from you guys on what you think of these films. Am I being too nitpicky or not? I'd love to hear that. Please tell me. I'd love to know. And with that, I don't know. Is there anything else we're missing at all for closeouts?
No, I think that's...
all right, then. Well, next time we're going to be watching Tales from the Earthsea, another adaptation in another Miyazaki. We'll see you after the credits.
Bye.